On today's episode of UMTV News, President Trump is set to address Congress in just a few hours. What will he highlight from his first 100 days in office? Plus, how the city of Miami Beach is setting its boundaries for spring break. We will tell you whether the new rules will change the game for beachgoers this year. And later on, we'll take you to one gym at the heart of South Beach that's bringing together seniors to help turn back the clock. These stories and more on today's show. UMTV News starts right now. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of UMTV News. I'm John Stanley. Tensions between Washington and Kyiv are escalating. President Trump has put a freeze on military aid to Ukraine following a heated exchange with Ukrainian President Zelensky in the Oval Office last Friday. Trump is pushing Ukraine to make concessions in peace negotiations while repeating Russian talking points about the war. The White House has confirmed Trump's decision to pause military aid to Ukraine, a move analysts warn could have major consequences on Ukraine's ability to defend itself. Officials say the aid freeze could last until Kyiv commits to peace talks, and that Trump and his senior aides want Zelensky to publicly acknowledge last Friday's heated exchange in the Oval Office.
You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now.
Officials say Zelensky's response could be.
Sources say Trump's team expects a public apology from Zelensky before any discussions resume on military support or even a deal on Ukraine's rare earth metals. Analysts say Ukraine has enough stockpiled weapons to sustain its fight for a few weeks, but the U.S. supplies its most advanced weaponry. At the same time, analysts warn Trump is testing the limits of U.S. support, with some questioning how far he can go in pushing Ukraine towards concessions. For now, Ukraine is left in limbo, awaiting its next move while its forces brace for what could come next. On the heels of this continuous meeting with Zelensky and Americans getting anxious about the economy, Donald Trump is scheduled to address Congress tonight for the first time in his second term. Amid the continued fallout from Friday's fiery Oval Office exchange with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky,
You're in no position to dictate that. Remember this.
President Donald Trump heads to Capitol Hill, facing skepticism from the diplomatic community and restlessness about the economy. The Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency has forced thousands of layoffs from government workforce, with billionaire Elon Musk, neither a cabinet member nor an elected official, leading the charge. And on Monday, Trump said 25% tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada will go forward as planned on Tuesday.
The tariffs, they're all set.
The latest measure of American consumer confidence from the Conference Board found the steepest decline in almost 4 years, driven by concerns Trump's tariffs will boost inflation again. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said the tariff plan is misunderstood.
Let's let outside people who live and breathe off our economy, let them start paying, and let's reduce the tax burden on Americans. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. This is turning that tariff money back to the American people, and that's what Donald Trump's going to do.
Democrats hope to seize upon Trump's campaign promises to peel back prices in their speech responses.
He said, I'm going to bring down costs from day one. What do we see? We see egg prices wholesale up 23%, lumber prices up, coffee prices up, and all of the things he's done, including these tariffs on our allies, on Canada and Mexico, can bring them up even more.
Trump has now imposed a 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada, and both countries are rearing up for a full-blown trade war with the U.S. Experts say that many Americans could feel the blow by next week. Just after midnight, Trump put the tariffs on Mexican and Canadian imports and raised tariffs on Chinese imports from 10 to 20%. Now, Mexico and Canada are responding to what some political experts say feels like a betrayal to America's biggest trade partners.
We don't want this. We want to work with you as a friend and ally. And we don't want to see you hurt either. But your government has chosen to do this to you.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says Mexico will respond with retaliatory tariffs by Sunday. The delay could point to hopes for negotiations between the U.S. and the Mexican government. It's almost time for spring break, and the city of Miami Beach is cracking down on spring breakers this year with new rules that some say are keeping the city safe, while others argue they're ruining the fun. Quinn Davidson joins us live with more on the impact of these restrictions. Quinn, how are these changes affecting tourists and businesses?
John, the city of Miami Beach is stepping up enforcement this spring break, from DUI checkpoints to alcohol bans on the sand. Officials say these measures are in place to prevent violence, but some visitors say it is impacting their vacations. Spring break in Miami Beach is known for big crowds and even bigger parties. But over the last few years, spring break in Miami Beach has turned chaotic, with violence, alcohol abuse, and thousands of arrests.
Last year we had a great spring break, so it was much different than we had seen for years and years before then. But I don't have an exact number. It's hard to actually quantify, but it was tens of thousands of people. And really, literally what it was a party on our streets. In a small area on Ocean Drive, but it was a party.
It was kind of dangerous because there were some dead people, sadly, just in front of us, right here in the corner, 7th Street, right over there.
To prevent that from happening, Miami Beach officials have started cracking down on spring breakers by imposing curfews, road closures, and alcohol bans, all in an effort to prevent chaos.
The party would be one thing, but it was a lot of illegal activity going on, and then ultimately we had some modified stampedes, we had shootings, we even had fatalities literally on our street. That's completely unacceptable.
Throughout March, the city will close parking garages and surface lots south of 23rd Street during peak weekends, enforce a $100 flat parking fee at certain garages, and ban coolers, inflatable devices, tents, and tables on the beach. Also, smoking on beaches or in parks, consumption of alcohol in public, and loud music are strictly forbidden.
We spent literally months preparing what measures we wanted to take. I worked with our legal department and really giving the city manager not just a guide, but direction. This is mandated by our city commission.
Clearly says she can't read, sir. Spring break!
Worst spring break
Ever.
City officials are also using social media to get their message across. This year's reality check ad warns visitors about Miami Beach's strict enforcement policies and what happens if they break the law. But the stricter rules have left some tourists confused.
We're from Canada. We just got to Miami like an hour and a half ago. We've already been walking for about 45 minutes trying to get to the beach. And we were just told we need to walk another half mile just to get to the DUI checkpoint. And we're in sandals. Like, we need our sneakers for all this walking. This is ridiculous.
But many locals have welcomed the heightened security measures.
So there's two sides of it. So for the business, it's not good, but also we feel that it's better for our security. So it's kind of, we feel more protected.
Last year, our hotel occupancy was up 1.8% from the year prior when we did have shootings. Our hotel rate for the month of March was $363. The GMCVB, which is sort of the tourism entity for Miami-Dade County, told us that was the highest in the nation.
With spring break restrictions in full swing, many people are debating whether these restrictions are effective. Some say they dampen the festivities, while others maintain that they are essential for keeping Miami Beach safe. Regardless, city officials maintain that these measures are in place to ensure public safety. Reporting for UMTV, I'm Quinn Davidson.
Thank you, Quinn. Last night, the Sue and Leonard Miller Center for Contemporary Judaic Studies on the University of Miami campus hosted an event focused on Jewish advocacy. The event featured lifelong Jewish activist and former American Jewish Committee leader David Harris. Harris spoke to a dedicated audience about the impact of his new book, On the Front Lines, A Lifetime of Global Jewish Advocacy. His book encourages pride in the Jewish faith and the importance of passing down heritage to future generations. The evening began with food and refreshments outside the conference room and concluded with a Q&A session with Harris.
I don't feel that I'm Jewish enough. after hearing him. What can I do? How do I get my grandchildren to understand what it means to be Jewish? We take it for granted.
Harris leads the Jewish community in promoting the faith and advocating for strong beliefs during a challenging time for Israel and the Middle East. Mardi Gras celebrations are taking their final lap in New Orleans today, and outside of the floats, beads, and beignets, police are swarming every corner of the French Quarter. This comes in response to the New Year's terrorist attack that killed 14 people. The Department of Homeland Security is working with law enforcement in New Orleans to strengthen security measures. These changes kicked off last weekend throughout Bourbon Street, where the deadly attack happened. Concrete barriers line the roadways to guide and protect partygoers. Time for a short break now, but coming up, we'll tell you who took home the gold at the Oscars on Sunday. Plus, we'll take you to one boxing gym that's helping those affected by Parkinson's disease. These stories and more coming up. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with UMTV News. This year's Oscars Awards ceremony celebrated some expected wins, emotional speeches, and a major night for independent films. Sean Baker joined Walt Disney as the only two people to win 4 Oscars in a single night. The Latvian film Flow won Best Animated Feature, and Brazil's I'm Still Here took home Best International Feature Film, the first Oscars ever for both countries. Conclave won for Adapted Screenplay, and Dune Part 2 claimed Oscars for sound and visual effects. Best Supporting Actor went to Kieran Culkin, while Zoe Saldana made history as the first American of Dominican origin to win Best Supporting Actress. But the night's biggest winner was the independent film Anora, which took home 5 Oscars, including Best Actress for Mikey Madison and Best Director and Best Picture for Sean Baker. Dallas Mavericks star Kyrie Irving is out for the rest of the NBA season with a torn ACL. His left knee bent awkwardly after a layup in a game against the Sacramento Kings yesterday. He left the game after shooting 2 free throws and did not return. Irving was averaging nearly 25 points per game this year and was a crucial piece of the Dallas lineup. A gym in South Miami is teaching people how to fight back against Parkinson's disease. This program is not only helping them physically, but also mentally. Gracie Palmer got the chance to check it out and joins us now live with more. Gracie?
John, this boxing gym in Miami is doing more than just strengthening muscles. For some people, it is giving them the strength to live their lives. Once a week, 71-year-old Tom Rio comes to the gym to fight. But Tom is fighting more than just a sparring partner. He's fighting a brain disease.
And now I've got this wonderful thing called Parkinson's.
And he is not alone. Every Wednesday, Thump Gym in the Miami neighborhood of Kendall hosts rock-steady boxing classes for people living with Parkinson's. Steve Arentalk brought it to South Florida about 10 years ago. For him, it's personal.
I had an aunt who I was very close with that had Parkinson's. She was inflicted with it, so.
But there's a science behind it too. Workouts like these can actually help slow the progression of Parkinson's.
You know, the tremor that people see, balance problems, stiffness, slowness in movements.
Doctors say any exercise can help with that.
And more than that, this place is also a community.
It not only encourages me, but it encourages them to keep coming. My end goal is truly to get Parkinson's cured. Not for me, but for my kids and my grandkids.
And for now, he will keep fighting back one punch at a time. Rocksteady Boxing is always looking for more coaches or donations. For more information, visit rocksteadyboxing.org. For UMTV, I'm Gracie Palmer.
Thank you, Gracie. And finally, last week we told you about a famous bald eagle couple in California's Big Bear Valley named Jackie and Shadow, who have been caring for their 3 eggs. Well, we have great news to share. As of last night, 2 of the chicks have now hatched. Their births were captured on a live camera that was installed by the Eagles Nest 10 years ago. This is the first birth for the Eagles in 3 years since their single chip named Spirit was born. And that's all the time we have for this edition of UMTV News. We're on spring break next week. We will be right back here in 2 weeks. Have a good night and stay safe.